1:47 in the morning, Sarah is still awake. Her room is dark except for the light from her phone. She has been scrolling for almost an hour. One short video becomes another. A message arrives, then another notification. She knows she should probably be asleep, but she doesn't feel tired anymore. That is the strange part. At 7 o'clock the next morning, the phone is still beside. Sarah gets out of bed and starts her day. She can move, she can talk, she can work, but something feels different. Simple thoughts take longer. She reads the same sentence twice. She opens an app and forgets why she opened it. By afternoon, she describes the feeling with one familiar word: brain fog. The question is whether the phone itself is causing that fog, or whether something happening around the phone is changing how her brain functions. The phrase brain fog is not a precise medical diagnosis. It is a description people often use for difficulty concentrating, slower thinking, forgetfulness, or feeling mentally less clear. And constant nighttime phone use can create several conditions that make those experiences more likely. The important distinction is this: the strongest evidence does not show that ordinary smartphone use simply makes the brain permanently foggy. Instead, research increasingly points toward an indirect pathway. The phone can keep the brain alert at a time when it is preparing for sleep. Its light can interact with the body's circadian system. The content can keep attention engaged, and the extra minutes spent scrolling can push sleep later. Together, those effects can change the quality and timing of sleep. And the following morning, the brain may be working with less recovery than it expected. Point one of the clearest demonstrations came from Anne-Marie Chang, Daniel Ishbak, Jean Duffy, and Charles Chisler in a 2015 study published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. Participants read either a light-emitting electronic book or a printed book during the evening before bed. The electronic device condition took longer to fall asleep. Melatonin secretion was reduced. The timing of the circadian clock shifted later, and the participants were less alert the following morning. The important point is that the screen was not simply keeping their eyes busy. Light reaching the eyes was interacting with a biological system that helps determine when the body expects to be awake and when it expects to sleep. Melatonin is part of that timing system. As evening progresses, the body's internal clock normally helps create conditions that make sleep more likely. But evening exposure to light can act as an alerting signal. In the 2015 study by Chang and colleagues, evening electronic reading delayed the biological timing of sleep and reduced next morning alertness. That gives us the first piece of the brain fog puzzle. The phone does not have to directly make the brain foggy. It can interfere with the conditions that allow the brain to recover overnight. Then there is another factor: the content itself. A phone is not just a light source. It is an attention machine. Every video, message, game, headline, and notification asks the brain to process something new. That creates a very different mental environment from quietly lying in a dark room. A 2023 study of university students with problematic smartphone use found that restricting smartphone use while in bed reduced pre-sleep cognitive arousal and improved sleep quality. The researchers specifically identified cognitive arousal as part of the pathway. In simple terms, the brain can remain mentally active even when the body is physically lying down, and the effect can continue into the next morning. In a 2018 randomized study, Evan Chinoe, Jean Duffy, and Charles Chisler compared evenings using a light-emitting tablet with evenings spent reading printed material. The tablet condition delayed self-selected bedtime. Melatonin timing shifted later, and participants reported being less alert during the first hour after waking. That matters because morning brain fog is often experienced as if something is wrong with thinking itself. But sometimes the problem begins several hours earlier. The brain did not necessarily become damaged overnight. It may simply be waking up before its biological system has fully caught up. There is also evidence that the relationship is broader than blue light alone. A 2024 systematic review and meta-analysis published in PubMed examined 55 papers involving more than 41,000 participants. The researchers found that electronic media use was associated with poorer sleep quality and more sleep problems. Smartphone use showed one of the stronger associations among the general use categories. This type of evidence cannot prove that every episode of brain fog is caused by a phone, but it strengthens the connection between frequent electronic media use and disrupted sleep. And sleep is where the story becomes much more important. This is where one popular explanation needs to be corrected. It is tempting to say, it's all the blue light, but the research is more complicated. Blue-enriched light can influence circadian timing. The 2015 Chang study demonstrated that clearly. But changing the screen's color does not necessarily remove every effect of using a phone at night. A 2021 randomized trial in young adults tested software that changed the color temperature of electronic screens to reduce blue light exposure. The researchers did not find that the blue light reduction produced greater improvements in objective sleep, self-reported sleep, or mental health compared with the control condition. That suggests the screen's light is only one piece of the puzzle. The other piece is behavior. A phone can delay bedtime. It can keep attention engaged. It can increase cognitive arousal. This distinction matters because it changes the question. The problem may not be, is my phone poisoning my brain? The more scientifically defensible question is, what is my phone doing to my sleep and mental state at the the exact time my brain is supposed to be winding down? That is a much more interesting question. And the evidence gives us several pieces of the answer, and it can simply replace time that would otherwise have been spent sleeping. The research points toward reducing the chain of events that connects nighttime phone use with poor sleep. A 2020 randomized pilot trial examined what happened when participants avoided mobile phone use for just 30 minutes before bedtime over 4 weeks. The researchers found reductions in sleep latency and pre-sleep arousal, along with increases in sleep duration, sleep quality, and working memory performance. The study was small, so it does not prove that the same effect will occur in everyone, but it provides experimental evidence for an important idea. Changing the timing of phone use can influence sleep and aspects of cognitive performance. The National Sleep Foundation's 2024 consensus statement also reviewed hundreds of empirical studies on screen-based digital media and sleep. Its expert panel concluded that the relationship depends on factors including timing, content, and the individual. That is important. There is no single magic number of minutes that determines when a phone becomes harmful. And there is no evidence that every person who uses a phone at night will wake up with brain fog. But when late-night use repeatedly delays sleep or keeps the mind activated, the research gives us a plausible pathway from the glowing screen at midnight to reduced alertness the following morning. So when Sarah wakes up at 7 o'clock and feels mentally slow, the explanation may not be that her phone has directly damaged her brain. The more evidence-based explanation is quieter. Her phone may have shifted the timing of her sleep. It may have kept her mentally engaged. It may have reduced the amount or quality of recovery her brain receives. And repeated night after night, that pattern can make the feeling of mental clarity increasingly difficult to recover. At 1:47 tomorrow night, Sarah may reach for the same phone again. The screen will still be bright, the videos will still be waiting, and the brain will still be receiving signals that say, stay engaged. The science does not tell us that every phone user is damaging their brain. It tells a more subtle story. Sometimes the fog we feel in the morning begins with what happened the night before, not because the phone destroyed anything, but because it may have kept the brain awake when it was supposed to be preparing for sleep. And that difference may be the key to understanding why a few hours of nighttime scrolling can follow us into the next day.